Welcome to the HIO Show, coming to you from center ice at the Old Montreal Forum. Joined again this week by former Canadian Chris Nyland of TSN Radio 690, columnist Jack Todd, and Andy Bennett of CBC Daybreak. Chris, Alex Galchenyuk, 21 years old, first-line center now for the Montreal Canadiens. Is the timing right?
Well, regardless if it's right or not, the time he's been at center, it's been a project with this kid, but he's come along really well. I think he's done the job in his own end, which is probably the most difficult part of it for him, to learn how to play down low below the dots in his own end. But as far as him being the top line center right now, how long will it last? A shift, a period, a game, a week, a month, a year? Again, it's all up to him. It's what he's going to do when he gets in that position. Is Max Pacioretty going to get the puck from him? Is he going to get 16 shots in 2 games playing with Galchenyuk? So it's kind of going to feel their way with it, I'm sure. And if it doesn't work, they'll go back to what they had before.
Chris mentions taking a chance at the opportunity. Sven Andrighetto goes from the St. John's Ice Caps to 7 games in the NHL to the first-line winger with these guys. I think that says as much about the coach maybe giving these young kids a chance to show what they can do.
Yeah. No, it's because Terrien's an Elvis fan and he likes In the Ghetto, which is what I sing every time Andrew Ghetto scores. No, it really is. I said last week, Andrew Ghetto took a terrible penalty, and then here he is back out on the ice for the shootout. These are things you just didn't see with Therien even 2 years ago, I think, and definitely not Michel Therrien 1. He's changed a lot. The team has changed a lot. The whole identity has changed. Now they just have to get it all to click.
Therrien, sorry, go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, we have talked a lot about Michel Therrien, how he's like sort of rewards coach. He gives you what you deserve, what the play, they play for their minutes, and he seems to reward them with that. And this is why this line that a lot of people have waited for, and we're kind of excited to see what's going to happen. I think it could go one of 2 ways, obviously. Right? It's going to really mesh, or it's going to be like, Galchenyuk's going to be looking to pass too often, or he's going to be shooting when he should be passing. So, it's going to be interesting.
Now, the Alexander Semin experiment is over after he played 15 games, 1 goal. Was it a mistake bringing him in here in the first place?
No, I don't think it was a mistake. Again, you take a shot at it. You hope someone comes in, a guy like him, and helps you on the power play, helps you score some goals. For a team that couldn't score goals last year, I don't think it was a bad move by Bergevin. He gave it a go. Didn't cost a lot. I said this kid was a dog for what he did in Carolina. He came here, he didn't show the gusto, the drive. And you can say, he didn't get a good chance, but listen, he's in control of what he does out there, and he obviously didn't do enough. And, he might end up back in Russia maybe, and, that'd be a good thing. I have a hard time to think that he can have a positive influence on those kids down in Hamilton. So, I'm sure there's more to come with Alex Semin.
What's Michel Therrien said he expects him to report to Hamilton, to St. John's, but I can't see that.
No, I don't see him reporting. I don't see them wanting him to report. I think it's just a way of saying bye-bye, and the next you'll hear from him, he's playing in Irkutsk.
Michel Therrien also said that it was nothing to worry about with Carey Price, and he'll be back at the end of the week. So I sometimes look at his facial expressions more than what he's actually saying. And when that question was asked about Semin, he sort of looked quizzically. Of course, he's going to report.
Price will be back at the end of the week. He just didn't say which week.
Any week. But I agree. I don't know if I agree with Chris too. Agreed. Everybody's saying, this is a bust. Not really. I mean, didn't cost them a lot of money. Why not give it a shot? And it didn't work out. And I think it's probably more of a chance that he's heading to KHL.
Well, some people are taking shots at Marc Bergevin over this, Chris, but I think one of his strong points is he's willing to admit when he makes a mistake, and he corrects it.
Yeah, listen, here's the deal. People are going to say he's not doing enough. He hasn't made the big trade. Bergevin has a plan. He's sticking to it. He doesn't listen to the noise. I don't have a problem with it. He brought in 2 guys, hoping maybe could help him in Semin and Kassian. They both haven't worked out. Kassian's still not sure what's going to happen there, but again, it didn't cost him a lot of dough. In Kassian's case, losing Pruss was one thing, but he gained some money. He gained a younger player, and if it worked out, it worked out. and the end of that story isn't written yet either.
No, Fleischman's worked out all right. Charles Hudon's also called up this week. He could become the fourth Canadian to play his first game in the NHL this season, following Condon and Carr and Bud Holloway. It's the depth they have, Jack.
And except for Holloway, they all fit a certain pattern. Small, fast, high-end scorers. Kind of guys that didn't used to make it here. There were so many junior scorers. They had 140
always
points
too small.
in junior. They came up, they were small, fast, and they couldn't play. All of a sudden now they can play, and the guy who hasn't been called up, who's getting a lot of seasoning, is Michael McCarron, the big guy they've supposedly been looking for since like John LeClaire.
But those two stories are kind of tied together, right? I mean, would Semin be sent down if Sven Andrighetto hadn't come in and had the season that he has had? And what confidence in these players when you have Gallagher who's injured and you still put a guy like Semin on waivers? I mean, that is just a huge vote of confidence for the depth that you have down the line.
Now, Daniel Carr talked about his first goal in the NHL, first shift, first shot. He said he did the wraparound, he hit the back of the net, and he went, "What just happened?" It's like, the look on his face was classic. What was your first goal?
It was against Philadelphia, Pete Peters. I was going to net. Bob Gainey ended up bumping into the goalie and fell on him. There was a pile, and the puck was sitting right there, and it looked as big as a beach ball. And I put it in the empty net.
Brendan Gallagher spoke this week, his fractured fingers, saying that he's hoping to be back for the Winter Classic. They seem to be feeling okay without him, though.
Yeah, they've handled it fairly well. Those two tight games that they ended up losing 3-2, I kept thinking, Gallagher might be that goal one way or another, either by getting in front of the goalie or scoring it himself. But I said before, I think this team has depth. They have enough to play 500 hockey from now until Price and Gallagher are back. And that's really all they have to do. They built up so many points early. I'm not even sure you want the President's Trophy. That's a curse of death.
It is a curse of death.
I like having Gallagher on the ice. Obviously, is one of my favorite players to watch. I've said that many times. But how great is it going to be to have Brendan Gallagher fired out of a cannon in January after being held off with this injury?
He'll be fired up and ready to go for sure. We'll be right back after just taking a short break. Welcome back to the HIO show. Chris, with so many Canadians players being called up from the farm team this season, I'm wondering your story when you were first called up.
Well, I was in Halifax, and I ended up practicing one day in late January, and I finished and I went home. I got a phone call to come back and see the general manager and coach, Bert Templeton. And I came back and sat with him, come in his office, and he said, you've been called up. I'm happy for you. Excited. He gave me an envelope with some cash in it, and I jumped in the cab and I went back home to pack and leave, and we started heading to the airport. I forgot my equipment. I left it at the rink. We had to fly back into Halifax. I mean, fly. And I just got to the flight maybe a half hour, 20 minutes before I was leaving, and they let me on. It was like, I was nervous as all hell, but it was a great day. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Now, the Bruins in town Wednesday night, Jack, with Brad Marchand, who might be speaking a little higher pitch than usual after being speared in the tenders by Brandon Pruss. Just a $5,000 fine. Brandon Pruss said it was the best money he ever spent.
I'm sure. I think you could probably take up a collection in Montreal and get about $5 million more if he got a bigger fine. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to shed any tears for Mr. Marchand. I really hated this whole Tom Kite thing that got going with the part I hated most about it with Gallagher is that he lumped Gallagher and Marchand together. I mean, other than the fact that they're both small and they play for rivals, there really is no similarity in the game. Marchand does a lot of dirty little things all over the ice, and Gallagher just drives people nuts while playing a clean game,
I still think, though, Andy, that $5,000 fine was a bit of a joke. It's almost like open season. If you want to spear a guy, it's going to cost you $5,000.
Well, the whole thing is just hilarious. I mean, first of all, Brandon Pruss has the best comebacks of anyone in the NHL. I mean, I still remember the bug-eyed fat walrus. I'll never forget that. And then to come out and say it's the best money he ever spent to be able to spear Marchand. And then even more hilarious that the fans are taking up a collection, as if this guy can't just pay a $5,000. I mean, he probably spends more than that on on a dinner to pay his $5,000 fine. So I love everything about this story. There's no bad.
I don't think the Canadians really miss Prost on the ice, but we really miss the coach.
I miss in the locker room. I mean, he is funny. Like, he's just great.
I think the Canucks really needed Brandon, because I still remember that Stanley Cup final when Marchand, I can't remember which one of the Sedin brothers, he punched him about, 8 times in the head.
Yeah.
And you thought at some point you'd retaliate, and nobody did.
Yeah, listen, every team can use a guy like that. Believe me, if something bad happens to this team, everybody, we need a tough guy, we need a tough guy. It always happens. And, thing about Brandon, he can play hockey. He had a goal and assist the other night. He's not just a fighter.
Yeah.
He can kill penalties. He's a real good team guy. Those guys, they're hard to get a lot of times, and they have an impact on the character of the team.
Do you think Prost could keep up on this team the way Michel Therrien is playing them?
It's so built to speed now, You wonder. I'm wondering about two of their current properties with McCarron and Cassian. Where they will fit if and when either one can come back into the lineup. This team now is so oriented to speed. But I agree with Chris. We're going to see down the line, and we've already seen with Beaulieu. We're going to see other times when guys are getting harassed on the ice and there's nobody out there to fight for them.
Jared Tenorti could be that guy, but you wonder now, Andy, is he ever going to play a game with the Canadians?
I mean, we've talked about this too. He's such a tough conundrum because he's a young kid, and you don't want him to be, in this weird limbo that he's in right now. Where is this hurting his development? But yeah, of course he could be that guy. And I personally would rather have, if they have to have somebody dropping the guys, I'd rather it be Tenorti than a guy like Nathan Beaulieu, who's had such a positive effect on the offense as well as the defense on this team. But yeah, of course, I think there's always room for a guy like Brandon Prest on the team, and I think in those situations he comes in handy.
Now, Chris, you're going to be absent the next 3 weeks from the show. I know you're going to be playing in the Winter Classic and the alumni game. You must be really excited.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. Just go home. It'd be awesome to have my grandkids there and stuff. I'm actually going next week to out to New Brunswick to play, and they have a team coming up from the Bruins. They're alumni. And some of the Montreal Canadiens alumni are going out there. We're going to play 3 games around New Brunswick. We're going to travel to Sydney with them from St. John's on a bus. We're all going to be on the same bus. So it should be a lot of fun. That's a big difference. You could never do that
you
before.
Miss riding the bus?
We're all on the same bus. Imagine the bullying that would go on that bus back in the day.
Well, you were telling me you and Jay Miller are good buddies.
Yeah, actually, Jay, we talked a couple weeks ago about the game, and he said, Nux, you're in real good shape. He said, don't embarrass me out there. I said, listen, don't stop begging me now.
Exactly.
You're begging me already.
I like how you say bullying back in the day. Like, you guys don't just morph right back to that age when you all get together.
Yeah, no, I can just see it. It'll be a lot of fun. It's always fun seeing guys you played against and not have to worry about one of them punching you in the nose.
Well, that's it for this week. We'll be back again with another HIO show next week, and we'll have a surprise guest for you.